Let's take you to the Senate, where the Senate Committee on Education is currently meeting the UASU officials, that's the University Academic Staff Union officials, and Muga Kolale and his colleagues are before that committee. Let's listen in.
Half of it attracted 3 strikes, yet the money was being withheld by the vice chancellors. We went on strike to demand that it be paid. We went on strike to demand that it be paid in total. We went on strike to demand that arrears be paid. That is one of the problems that has been affecting smooth negotiations. As we went on, the Vice Chancellor has created layers for negotiations, so that within negotiations, we have 3 layers. And I want to mention that whenever we are negotiating, although the law clearly stipulates that unions should be negotiating with IPUCCF, we have been brought to our knees and we have been forced to first negotiate with IPUCCF. So IPUCCF negotiates with the Vice Chancellor's Club and agree on how the negotiations should not see the light of the day. IPUCCF negotiates with unions, and you have realized there will always be a stalemate. Then IPUCCF negotiates with the Minister of Education. I will explain why. Then IPUCCF negotiates recently with Salaries and Remuneration Commission to get the beacons, the benchmarks for our negotiations. Then SRC negotiates with the Minister of Education on the benchmarks and beacons. Then SRC negotiates with Treasury on whether the funds are really available. Then Minister of Education negotiates with Treasury. By the end of the day, our proposals that we normally submit early enough get confused with capitation demanded by all the public universities. So at the end of the day, our proposal becomes a subset of the university's quest for enhanced capitation. And I want to point out here that this is part of the problem now. This CBA we are talking about, 2017-2021, should have been implemented by 1st of July 2017. We are almost 9 months late into arrears. The reason we are 9 months late will be elaborated by the Secretary General. But I want to say that these layers of negotiations have to a large extent undermined the integrity of our CBAs. I want to point out that the introduction, the Kenya Constitution 2010 also introduced a very dangerous animal called Salaries and Remuneration Commission. I'm calling it dangerous in this sense. Section 41 of the Constitution allows employer unions to form their union, allows employees union to form their union, and negotiate for better terms and conditions of service. No sooner was SRC created by Section 230 of the Constitution than we realized that negotiations would never be as smooth sailing as we had anticipated. The reason I'm saying that is that in September 2012, SRC, first of all, indicated that the 2-year cycle would translate into a 4-year cycle. The unions were not consulted. As if that was not enough, in January 2013, the 4-year cycle was gazetted. As if that was not enough, SRC came up with guidelines stipulating how future negotiations could take place. Among other things in the guidelines is that before a CBA is signed, the universities are expected to prepare their proposal. The unions are expected to prepare their proposal. They are supposed to meet with the universities and produce one hybrid document. It is that document that is signed as a provisional CBA. for onward transmission to SRC and the Treasury. Incidentally, since the change from 2-year cycle to 4-year cycle and the introduction of the SRC guidelines, the universities have made sure that we don't see their proposal. Even now as I'm talking, we have not seen the university's proposal. They are claiming there's a document that they forwarded to Treasury or to the Ministry of Education. We have not had opportunity to have a look at the document, including the executive summary. So we do not know what the universities have been presenting to those institutions. So I'm saying here that there is a sense in which SRC has not facilitated the processes of joint negotiations with the universities and unions. Again, there is a caveat here. We have two-tier negotiations. We have national negotiations, basic salary and house allowance. Then other allowances and other non-monetary items that we negotiate back in the respective universities. Incidentally, and I think documents will be tabled, SRC has entered a silent agreement with the universities where it is SRC confirming that the universities do not have the financial capacity to execute, to negotiate and execute chapter negotiations. In our position, again, it's a letter lately written by SRC to the Minister of Education, indicating that they don't understand the negotiations, the chapters, because some universities do not have the capacity to fund the CBS. So they are seeking advice from the ministry when they have already declared some universities to have financial illiquidity. Those contradictions have affected our negotiations back in the chapters and at the national level. So we have got a bone to chew with SRC in regard to lawful negotiations. It will be noted that whenever university workers are due for salary review, they must go on strike. Why? University workers are not obsessed with strike. But when all the venues are closed, what are you left with? And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that since 2004, we have never had a CBA without industrial action. We resort to industrial action to jumpstart negotiations. We resort to industrial action to actually negotiate. We resort to industrial action to implement the signed and negotiated and registered CBA. That's why there is a problem that has to be sorted out with remarkable immediacy. Honorable Chairman, you'll also note that when universities present their budgetary projections, even in the years where we are due for negotiations, no university has ever factored the cost of the CBA in their respective budgetary projections. The result is that we normally negotiate outside the circle. And when we negotiate outside the circle, we really do not negotiate. The government comes up with a global figure and imposes on us. So we only sit down to distribute. That's why a number of items are overdue for negotiations in the public universities. Their budgets have never included the cost of CBA, including the cost of internal CBA. Honorable Chairman, it is a fact that some universities have got enormous resources. Others are young and do not have as much. So when we revert to chapteral negotiations, we are also servicing inequalities. What Nairobi University can afford, for instance, is not what Garissa can afford. And yet these are university workers. This has forced us now to start thinking about standardizing allowances. And also asking, revisiting our recognition agreement to agree that certain items that have hitherto been negotiated in the chapters should now be negotiated nationally so that we can rope in the treasury to fund them, to avoid inequities and inequalities among the university workers. Honorable Chairman, may I also point out that whenever we have mutually agreed and signed a CBA and registered it with the court, the nightmare starts. Some universities will comply. They will implement according to the law. Some will implement it haphazardly. Others will simply say, we don't have funds. Again, that raises the question, who should meet the cost of the CBA? That should be clearly defined. The chair, in conclusion, because I think man was introduction, the main thing is coming. In conclusion, there is something I would like the committee to revisit. I pointed out that when we started negotiations, the pioneer negotiations witnessed the presence and authoritative representation of Office of the President, Treasury, and Minister of Education. We would like to appeal to this committee to ensure that that is reinstated as fast as yesterday. That will add credence and authority, including legality, to our negotiations. And finally, whenever universities budget, especially where the budget falls on a negotiation year, the cost of the internal CBA and the national CBA should be clearly stipulated. And lastly, I want to appeal to the good conscience of this committee to consider our issues with open mind and with the view to prescribing lasting solutions that will bring to an end frequent industrial actions in the universities. With those few remarks, Chair, allow me now to invite the National Secretary General of UASU to zero in on matters of the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, honorable members of the Senate Education Committee, members of the media, good afternoon. The University Academic Staff Union highly appreciates the opportunity accorded by the Senate Education Committee to make a presentation on the status of 2013-2017 CBA and 2017-2021 CBA. This is the second time UASU is before the Senate Education Committee, and we appreciate the efforts made by the previous Senate Committee, Education Committee chaired by Honorable Daniel Dixon Karaba, in resolving the previous lecture strikes following our appearance before the committee on 20th February 2017. Currently, the terms and conditions of service for university academic staff, comprising professors to graduate assistants, are contained in an already expired 2013-2017 collective bargaining agreement. And I want the Senate Education Committee to note that this CBA expired, and the irony of it is that it was even negotiated when it had expired. This is why university academic members of staff have fears. The launch of this CBA was in 2012, and it took IPCCF 5 years to negotiate this CBA. We had to go on strike 3 times for it to be negotiated and implemented. The government has adjusted the terms and conditions of service for public workers, except university staff, by implementing collective bargaining agreements for the period 2017-2021, all through other salary and monetary interventions. Academic staff in public universities have, however, been discriminatively left out of any review of terms and conditions of service, including basic salaries, housing allowance, mortgage schemes, car loan schemes, among others, at levels comparable to what other public sector employees enjoy. Academic staff in Kenyan public universities are overworked and underpaid, with the detrimental effects on staff morale, research, teaching, and innovation. Mr. Chairman, I'm very happy because when you introduce yourself, you say that you are a human resource expert. I want to say that the management of human resource in public universities is perfunctory. It is in these public universities where one person can stay in one grade for 20 years. And universities never even factor money for promotion. The promotion of academic staff in public university is a sacred weapon by vice chancellors. They only call reviews when they have interest. And I want you to note that there are also other public universities which do not have councils. And there are certain cadre of staff that must appear before council for them to be promoted. I want to give you an example. A case in point is University of Nairobi. So University of Nairobi does not have a council. It means members of that university now cannot be promoted from associate professor to professor because they must appear before council. Two, I want you also to note that we have a number of universities that have acting vice chancellors. And when you are acting, you cannot perform your duties satisfactorily. We had to make noise 3 weeks ago, and you saw the ministry appointed 6 vice chancellors now on certain positions. I want to move to 2013-2017 CBA. When we appeared before Senate here last year, we said that we wanted these CBAs to be negotiated and concluded. To date, only 6 universities have negotiated and concluded their internal CBAs. That is the University of Nairobi, Pwani University, Maseno University, Jomo Kenyatta University, and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University. The remaining 25 universities have bluntly refused to negotiate their internal CBAs. And when you retire, you will check your file there. They are always flashing a letter from SRC. Those letters are in your file. What SRC is saying, that these universities do not have capacity to negotiate. In other words, SRC is declaring those universities insolvent. Because a university that cannot negotiate an internal CBA has no reason to exist. And what we are saying, this is bringing disparity in payment. 6 universities are paying higher rates. 25 universities are still in lower rates. It brings inequality. And when you retire, you will see SRC wrote to the former CS complaining about the inequality being meted about by refusing to negotiate internal CBAs. The letter is in your file. I want to say that in our recognition, return to work formula, signed on 13th, we agreed that all these internal CBAs were to be negotiated and concluded by 20th February. As we speak, those universities have refused to negotiate the internal CBAs. And as a result, our members are frustrated. They don't know what to do, because their colleagues in other universities are earning higher rates. I want to move to 2017-2021 CBA. In our return to work formula, we agreed that this CBA was to be negotiated and concluded by 31st May 2017 and implemented on 1st July 2017. To date, this CBA has not been negotiated. Instead, we are being taken around in circles. We met on the 9th. We agreed on 9th December how the 2017-2021 CBA was to be negotiated. We also met on 18th. We met on 31st. We met on 13th. All those dates, our social partner has been promising us that they were going to table their counter-offer. The minutes of those negotiations and invitation letters are in the file. When you retire, you will see them. I want to say that IPCCF has blatantly refused to table a counter-offer to it. And as a result of this merry-go-round, the University Academic Staff Union gave a formal strike notice to IPCCF. And we thought that by giving them 7-day strike notice as established in law, they would now expedite negotiation. Instead, what they have done, they have rushed to court. I want to say that there's another injustice being meted to academic member staff. We negotiated 2010-2013 CBA. And the employer was supposed to contribute the pension component of this CBA. I want to say that from 2010 to 2013, the employer has not remitted the pension component, totaling to 1.56 billion Kenya shillings. We also negotiated the 2013-2017 CBA. The employer was supposed to remit pension component. To date, they have not remitted 2 billion. So members of staff in public universities are owed 3.56 billion Kenya shillings. And I want you to get this. The pension schemes we have in our universities are contributory. The employer contributes, the employee also contributes. Then this money is managed by a fund manager to generate interest. So by the government withholding 3.56 billion, it means our members will go home without nothing. To make it worse, there are people who have retired from 10 to 2013. They have gone home without the pension component. There are also people who retired from 2013 to 2017. They have also gone home without their pension. So I don't know what we should do as a union to get what is duly ours. Carlo, I want to say that SRC generated this policy. And the circular is in the file, you will get it. SRC gave express authority that that circular was supposed to be implemented by 1st January 2015. To date, all universities have virtually refused to implement that circular or formulate a policy. While in other public sector, employees are being facilitated to go to work. Employees are being facilitated to own houses. As you're aware, the civil service, there were houses developed along Gara for civil servants. We thought we were also civil servants. When our members attempted to apply for those houses, they were told you are not civil servants. And I want to say we are also employees of this government. Why are we being discriminated? The circular is very explicit that these things were supposed to be domiciled in individual universities. What is needed of these universities is to formulate a policy, then present the policy to the government to fund. But they have refused. Each and every time we talk about this, they tell us it is not in the recognition agreement. Let me tell you, but we never generated this. Statutory reductions. I want to say that there's also another sad affair in universities. Universities deduct money from our members. That is SACCO deductions, bank loans, even KRA. And they don't remit. And I want to say, that today Moi University owes our members 598,805, 132 million. It has not been remitted. It has been deducted. I want to say that Moi University also owes our members provident funds, totaling to 117,710 million. These are monies deducted from members, and they have not been remitted. I want to move to Egerton University.
That is approximately 600.
One university, 600 million. It is 500. For pension, it's 598 million. Then Provident Fund is 117 million. Deducted from your pay slip, you think it has been remitted when the university is holding it. Egerton University, the SACCO is owed 122 million. And the university does not care. It is these SACCOs where our members can get money and develop themselves. You contribute the money, and the university does not remit. What the universities are paying, they are only striving to pay net salaries. These other deductions, they don't pay. And this is gross injustice. So when you see us dancing on the streets, don't think we are happy. We are a sad lot. Medical schemes. Virtually, medical schemes has collapsed in all public universities. You find a professor, goes to the hospital, and you are told you are not allowed here because your university is not paying.